Radio, Sultanate of Oman, 90.4, and the Sultan Qaboos Center for Islamic Culture presents
In the monsoon rain,
Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Listen and get involved personally in this holy month of Ramadan. Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Presented by Hatem Hatif Al Abdul Salam. Produced by Matloob Ayel Al Wahabi. Reaching Out Through Dialogue, a special on Radio Sultanate of Oman, 90.4.
Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Hatem Al Absalam. Welcome to our program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. Today we're going to talk or discuss about a controversial or sensitive topic, which is imitation. In fact, we're going to focus on blind imitation. And I believe that our youth will find it interesting since it touches them more than others. We have today to discuss this topic Mr. Ahmed Mubarak Al-Mata'ni, who is a lecturer in one of the local private colleges in Oman. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Ahmed.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
And how's fasting?
Well, so far so good.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Thank you so much for the second invitation
You're
for the
most
second season of your program.
Okay, Ahmed, this topic is very controversial and very sensitive. But, you remember earlier when we decided to do this show, we decided to make one episode.
Yeah.
And then we thought it is too vast. We need to make it into two. So inshallah, we're going to split this episode into two, today and tomorrow. Yeah. And I hope we cover all the points, inshallah.
Hopefully.
To start off, Ahmed, we need a definition of blind imitation.
Okay, before we go into the definition of blind imitation, I would like to break down the term, since it has two words, blind and imitation. Now, if we focus on the word blind, usually blind can be either as an adjective or a verb or a noun, okay? So if it is an adjective, it means unable to see or notice. If it is a verb, usually it means, to make something blind. Or if it is a noun, something intended to mislead. Okay. So this is when it comes to the word blind. Moving to the second word, which is imitation. Imitation can be either as a noun or as an adjective. When it is a noun, it means, copying something. Okay, this is the meaning of imitation, when it is a noun. When it is, an adjective, it means it may look like, something copied or, imitated or, copied, something like that. Now, before talking to the definition of a blind imitation, usually, I think, you asked me, a long time ago about, if there are some related, terms.
The thing is, a lot of terms are associated with imitation.
Yeah.
And maybe you can share with us some of these terms?
Exactly. Before, as you said, there are some other terms related to the topic of imitation. One of them is assimilation. And assimilation has almost the same meaning of imitation, which means copying of, behaviors, speeches, and so on, manners and so on. But the difference between imitation and assimilation, that with assimilation, we know why we are imitating. So intentionally done.
So the awareness is there.
Yes, exactly. Compared to imitation, we just copy things, okay, sometimes without awareness, and without, being aware or educated why we are imitating. So there's intention, clear to the person who
goal.
Yes. And while for imitation, you don't have a clear goal. Sometimes people just imitate because they imitate. They don't have that reasoning process, okay, to decide whether this is something good or bad.
Maybe later on we're going to discuss more about why people imitate in the first place.
Yes.
Ahmed, whenever imitation comes to our mind, a negative aspect of it appears. is imitation always negative?
Well, the word imitation itself, sometimes, like if you think about it, in terms of a meaning, copying. Now, if it is copying without, justification or reasoning process, then of course this is something negative. Okay, and of course there is another element, related to whether we have to decide whether it is a negative thing or a positive thing, which is, for example, the manner that we are trying to imitate.
To imitate.
Yeah. So, or the behavior. If the behavior is something good, okay, then it should not be a negative one. If it is something bad, then it should be a negative one. So that's another aspect we have to consider when we talk about imitation, whether it is a negative one or a positive one.
Okay. People are sometimes confused
Yeah.
when it comes to imitation because they associate it with role models. Is there a major difference between having a role model and imitating someone? And what is the Islamic perspective when it comes to this?
Yeah. So, just coming back, if you allow me to elaborate more on the previous, element. So, when we're talking about, the positive imitation and the negative imitation, okay, there's a verse in the Holy Quran, where God asking people who do not have knowledge to ask those who have what? Knowledge.
Knowledge.
This is, a form of imitation, actually, because you imitate or you copy a statement or an action or a behavior or a manner, from people who have knowledge about something. Okay, this will lead us to the idea that, there's a kind of imitation, okay, and there's one which is not recommended. In Arabic, mahmoud or madmoom, So that's, one thing that, I wanted to just to add to
clarify.
What we have, clarify, to that. Now, back to your question where we talk about role models and we talk about what?
Imitation.
Imitating, yes. Actually, role models usually something to be done when we talk about, an action which is very clear that person that we're trying to take as a role model.
Okay.
His actions or her actions are very clear to us that he or she will perform, good things. Okay, we know for sure. Okay, that these people should be imitated because all followed as role models because of their actions. Everything is clear. You see, the clarity aspect is there. While with imitating, okay, you don't feel that, people are imitating because there is something, to be followed. So this is one thing about, the two terms that you were talking about. So people who are role models, usually they show us, the right way. Or they are doing, things or actions which are really, good and people, cannot, argue about them.
This brings me to a point, Ahmed,
Yeah.
when you say that people who are role models,
Yeah.
they lead you to the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we have bad role models?
For sure. And this, can be put under what? Imitation, because, or blind imitation. Because sometimes, what is a role model? A role model is a person who can affect you to the extent where you can follow that person.
Okay.
Okay? And this person can be what? A positive one or a negative one. Or somebody who's good and somebody who's what? Bad. Let's, talk about, somebody here, let's say, because of your strong personality, let's say, let's take an example of you, for example. Let's say Hatem has, a very strong personality, okay? And he has done a lot of good things, okay? And he has a good personality. So people around him will take him as a role model. So in this case, people will follow him as what? A good role model. On the other side, you can have somebody who has also strong personality, but, his actions and his behaviors are not matching, the norms of the society or the religion and so on. So people will try to follow him or her because of what? The strong personality that he has. Okay, but the role model usually, okay, will make you follow because of actions. Imitation here, there is the aspect of reasoning and justification is what missing. Imitation usually...
maybe it's more emotional?
Yes. Okay. But with role models, usually there is an action. People feel it, they watch something, they see something. And because of the strong personality that, you have, for example, they will tend to follow you.
Maybe it's also about the legend that these people leave behind.
Yeah.
And the effect that they have on society, on community, on everything in life.
For sure, because sometimes, there are other factors, contribute, to make, somebody as a good role model or a bad one. And we'll talk later on about, why we have these people, like why people imitate, and we'll focus on this, later on when we talk about the reasons behind imitation.
Ahmed, how about Islamically? What does it say when it comes to role models?
Well, when it comes to blind imitation, the Prophet, stated in one of his statements, or teachings, that, that Muslims will come to a stage or time where they will follow those people who are not from the same teaching, closely. They will follow them, step by step. To the limit that where if they decide to go to a lizard's hole, they will do the same thing.
To that extent.
To that extent, which is a scary thing. And, coming back to the idea of what? Reasoning. If we tend to imitate without questioning, without thinking, then definitely we'll be led. And now, if you allow me, we can talk about the idea of what? To lead, not to be led. And
which is an important thing.
Exactly. Instead of being, a person who is given instructions and rules, to follow, which is sometimes okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, but sometimes, if we tend to follow rules because we like to be led, then there's a problem. And this is why, in our religion, there is a kind of invitation that we like to be powerful. We like to be people who are leading people or guiding people to to the right path. This is one thing that maybe is missing in other methodology. Let's say ideologies and so on. So we tend to lead people or guide people to the right path. And if we don't have that one, then this aspect of imitation will lead people to be led, and we have to be careful about this.
So imitation will be developed.
Yes.
If we stop leading people.
We need to lead the process. Because there's no harm in imitating others, or copying from others. But also you have to have the idea that you need to lead. Which means you need to decide what is good and what is bad. But because if you just copy without thinking and without reasoning, then what's going to happen? You're going to be led.
Ahmed, what people wonder is, why do we imitate in the first place? Now, for example, when we are infants or babies, we copy every single thing our parents do. And we love it and we enjoy it. And as we grow on, we tend to do the same as well, until the age that we develop our own personalities.
Yeah. So that is, like a developmental stage, by the way. It's not imitating, And actually, age is a main factor here, Like we move from one stage to another. We don't have the ability or the capacity, the thinking capacity, when we are young. So we tend to imitate, That's why, like we pick a language. We use the same kind of terms around us. We use the same kind of behaviors, we see around us, But, coming to your question, which is why people imitate, we're not talking about, the normal imitation. We're talking about, the blind imitation or the negative one. The first reason, in my opinion, is something to do with ignorance. And when we talk about ignorance, we're talking about two levels. First of all, the ignorance of our own teaching. Sometimes, people think they don't know anything about their religion. So this is why, they don't
Which is a dangerous thing.
Exactly, okay? So they don't know about the value of their religion. So this is, part of ignorance. The other side, which is of ignorance here, is they don't know the side effect of, imitating a different culture. So they just think that it's cool, to imitate, this culture and so on. But they don't know that, there are a lot of what?
Implications
and, side effects of, following, such a behavior.
Yeah.
So this is, one reason behind, this kind of blind imitation. Ignorance of the teaching of our own culture and
the
religion.
Side effects
and of course,
associated
to the culture that we like to imitate. The second one is, the second factor is something to do with media. Okay. Media, tend to show us that our culture is a scary culture. So people tend to what?
Move away.
Exactly from our culture. This is, is another issue. And they are doing this, and also the blame is coming to us because we are not doing also a good job in terms of what? Promoting for our culture. So the media, on the other side, those who have, a hidden agenda to promote for what, let's say, gloomy and bad picture about Muslims, okay, or about, certain group of people, they, they are very successful because, they show us as what? Terrorists, or maybe, like people who like to do a lot of crazy things.
Maybe because Muslims don't prove them wrong. Don't you think so?
Exactly. This is what I was talking about. Like we should not, we don't promote for such a thing. Now, when we go outside, for example, okay, we do not present our own culture in the right way. Yeah. So people, think that, maybe because, they're afraid of their culture. This is why they don't want to show us, their own culture. So we are contributing, okay, directly, in fact, okay, on this kind of image. And of course, our youth will, they will believe that this is the right thing. Like they see everything on the media in a visual form, like in audio form and so on, like a written form. And then they started to believe that there is something wrong with their own culture.
Yeah.
So the other side, okay, they are playing a very important role, okay, in changing our attitude in or belief in our culture. So that's, another factor. And, as Muslims, okay, we should not have a lot of a free time or leisure time. Now, our young people tend to have a lot of free time. They don't have, goals, to achieve, or certain ideas and objectives, to achieve in their lives.
Of course, Ahmed, this is not for the majority.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yes.
Some of them,
yeah. But it's becoming sort of a common thing. People, they don't have any goals or clear goals, of their lives. So because of that, they just copy whatever is available in the market, and they lose their identity and their culture. So this is another thing. And, coming to the idea of belief, okay? The idea of, remember when we were talking about ignorance?
Yeah.
Okay, of their own teaching, and they don't know the value of their teaching. They tend to have sort of weakness in their beliefs. And they don't know anything about, why they're doing that, okay? They just, see people. They don't have discussions. They don't have anything. And
so what you're trying to say is imitating can be a sign of weakness.
Yes. Because people, when they imitate, they try to be another person. Yeah.
I always ask youngsters when I come across them, and I ask them, don't you feel ashamed to imitate others while others don't imitate you? You should be proud of your culture, your upbringing, and people should imitate you.
Yeah.
But you're doing the other way around. And it's always us imitating others.
Yeah, it's it's very ironic, like what has happened, throughout the history. Like we used to show people, like the right thing, okay, and now it's the way around. People are showing us, a lot of things. So we used to lead, okay, the history of humanity, okay, with our behaviors, with our manners, and so on. Now it is the way around, okay? And, like the Western world, actually what they did is that they took the good things from us. And this is why they are advanced now.
Yeah.
While, in our situation now, for us, we just decided to take the negative side of that culture. Okay, without, thinking about what is good and what is bad. So it is very, very sad, to know that.
Because if you see, the West has a lot of good things that we can take and we can imitate.
And we used to teach, those things, to the world, okay? But now, our youth, and actually even, like we should also include ourselves, okay? We tend sometimes just to take, whatever is not beneficial.
The thing is, Ahmed, I don't want our audience to feel that we are only focusing on the youth.
Yeah.
It's about everyone.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
about everyone.
That's why I said, we should also include.
We all fall in the same trap.
Yeah, yeah. So.
The thing is, Ahmed, people imitate now more than the olden days. Why do you think the reason is?
Yeah, like coming back to the idea of media, okay? In the past, first of all, like you cannot compare, the means of media in the past and now. Now it's very easy, to promote for any kind of act or behavior. So people can watch it, can hear it, they can, read it, okay? So name it, okay? Any forms of media is available, okay? And people, tend to just speak it like that, okay? In the past, those tools of media were not available. Okay, and also the other thing is that, maybe in the past, okay, we used to have a lot of dialogues, okay, with each other. So like people will
communication was better.
Exactly. We tend to communicate better in the past. But now we are in this busy life, okay? People don't have time, for their family. They don't have time for their children, so they just, like get busy, occupied, with a lot of things that are happening around them. And then the consequences will be big and, worse sometimes,
Ahmed, I agree with most of what you said.
Yeah.
But what I don't agree is when you said about media.
Yeah.
Because we are affected with the media the same way that everyone else around the world. We tend to imitate more than other cultures or other civilizations.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Like...
And they might be more advanced than us in terms of media and communication.
This is the thing, like when we have, first of all, sort of, coming back to the idea of ignorance, okay? Now, like in other cultures, okay, they, first of all, value their own culture. This is one thing. We do not, because of the media and because of, like also other people who are, trying to promote the idea that, your culture is sort of a reactionary culture.
Okay.
Is, sort of a backward, culture. So there's a problem also within the community, itself. We tend to promote that, our culture is not helping us to advance, okay? And we have a lot of people in our culture, who are very impressed, with the Western culture, forgetting that, our culture has a lot of values and principles. And because we don't enhance those values, okay, we are behind, okay? So that's the thing. So now, coming back to your idea about, why, there are cultures, like the Japanese culture, for example. They are still maintaining, their own culture because they believe in their culture, okay? And they try to teach...
Although they're very advanced.
Yes, and they just, feel that, there's no contradictory ideas here between maintaining their own culture
and development.
And development, exactly. But for us, we just feel that, either you have to take this or that. they will never come together. And, if you remember last time, we were talking about knowledge, okay?
Yeah.
And in the holy, like in our religion, okay, there's an invitation that people should be knowledgeable about everything around them, okay? And there is no limit, for knowledge, okay? Even if they want to exceed the limits of the sky and the universe, okay, they can do that, but they have to have what? Knowledge, okay? So,
Ahmed, there is an accusation that our culture might be, or our religion might be very rigid. That's why people tend to move on to copying other cultures. What can you say about that?
First of all, we have to define, the word rigid, okay? Because maybe you can say, like there are sort of, guidelines.
Okay.
And whenever you don't have guidelines, definitely you will cross the limits, which means that you will do a lot of crazy things.
Yeah.
Life should be organized. Without limits, without guidelines, people might, interfere, might do a lot of crazy things, and we will have, a lot of problems in the future. Yeah, so I don't think, we have this problem at all. Our religion is not a rigid, religion. And as I mentioned before, there is a clear invitation. If you can cross the limits of the universe, you can do it, but you have to have what? Knowledge.
Knowledge,
for that one.
Yeah.
So,
Ahmed will take a short break. And after the break, we're going to discuss about the types of imitation.
Okay.
Inshallah, see you after the break.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away in his home in Medina.
You are listening to the program Reaching Out Through Dialogue. We will be back for more in just a moment.
Welcome back, Ahmed.
thank you.
Ahmed, before the break, we discussed about many elements, and the last thing that we spoke about is why do people imitate more now than before. Now, to get to the next point is what are the types or levels of blind imitation?
Okay, like in our teachings, we've got, 4 types of, or 4 levels of imitations. Okay, the first one is called the kind of imitation that, could create what we call in Arabic shirk, or disbelief.
Disbelief, okay.
So this is the highest, level of what?
Imitation.
Which is not allowed at all, okay, in our religion.
Ahmed, I want you to elaborate more so that our audience can understand. What do you mean by this, by this type of imitation?
Yes, like I mean that, when we associate, other partners with God, okay, when we start to believe that, there's more than one God, that we should worship, or there's a mediator, between you and God, or something like that, So this is, one kind of what imitation. So in other religions, or in other, let's say, ideologies, people believe that, you can have more than one God. So we tend to imitate, these people. So that kind of imitation is not allowed at all.
I have an example of this, Ahmed. Nowadays, there is a trend among our youngsters to follow something called emo. Okay, emo is a group. They started off as devil worshippers, and then it developed, and the rock stars started, developing this thing and making it sort of a cool thing or a stylish thing. And our youngsters now follow what is called emo. And you would find some signs that they put black nail polish, they wear total black leather, and they wear skeletons and things like that. Can this be considered to be because when you start to associate anything with the devil, and you follow the devil, it means you're associating the Almighty
partners,
Allah.
Partners with God, with Allah. So yes, it is one form, but this is the problem. This is as a result of what blind imitation. Now, since you have talked about the history of emos, now I'm sure that a lot of our audience will be shocked, to know that this is something to do with the devil.
Maybe most of them don't know.
Yes, coming back to the idea of what ignorance.
Ignorance.
Yeah. So you see, you know, like I'm sure that now people, if they know the history, okay, or the origin of such a thing or phenomenon, okay, they will understand that this is not something, you know, that they cool or they can just,
they should not follow.
You know. So yeah, this is, you know, a very good example that you have just mentioned. The second level is something to do with acting sins, okay? Let's say, for example, you know, in our teaching, men cannot wear gold. Yeah. So, like, you know, some people say, okay, I'm gonna, you know, like, I'm watching, you know, this, you know, star, okay, movie star or a singer and so on. He or she is wearing, you know, I mean, he is wearing what? Gold. You know, this is something to do with what the teachings of your religion. You cannot, you know, just say, okay, because, you know, so-and-so is wearing, you know, I have, you know, to
I'll do the same thing.
Yeah, this is not acceptable. Okay. Another example is like, you know, which is commonly developing in our area, you know, like the imitation of men to women and vice versa. You know, it's very clear in our religion, okay? This is not possible.
So men look feminine and women look muscular.
Exactly. It's very common, and, you know, like, and this is a scary thing, you know, maybe we can have another discussion talking about, you know, this topic because it's a very hot topic. And so this is, you know, the second level of what imitation. The third one is what we call in Arabic makruh or dislike.
Okay.
This is, you know, like falling into, like, between two groups. And, you know, you don't know sometimes whether this is, you know, could lead, you know, to worse, you know, results, or sometimes, you know, will not lead you to anywhere.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, another, you know, level. Last time, you know, you were talking about, you know, the earring thing, you know, where, yeah, maybe we don't have a clear, you know, like
indication whether
yes,
it's allowed or not. Yeah.
But, you know, this might lead to a lot of, you know, bad consequences. You know, let's say, for example, if we allow such a thing, for example, which is not, you know, haram, for example. Okay.
Forbidden. It's not forbidden.
Yeah, forbidden, okay. Then, you know, people will think that, you know, look at the consequences, you know, might lead to this, you know, kind of act. Number one, you know, if, let's say, a young man, you know, decided to do that, you know, maybe gradually he will start, you know, to associate, you know, himself with women, maybe, for example. So the consequences might lead to something worse, okay, in the future. We are not sure whether this will lead to or not yet.
The argument that our youngsters have, Ahmed, is, for example, wearing, it used to be in the olden days that wearing earring on one of your ears only, it indicates that you're homosexual. Okay?
Yeah.
But our youngsters would argue that, no, I am just following it as a fashionable thing. I am not homosexual. Okay? So it's okay for me to do it.
But, you know, like, this is the, you know, this is why, you know, like, you cannot predict, okay, what's going to happen. And if you open it to the public, you know, you cannot predict who's going to take it in that way or the other way.
So it's better to avoid it.
Exactly, from the first place. Okay, so that's, you know, why it is, you know, sort of a gray area. You know, you should not, you know, gamble with it. Okay, so try to be in the safe side, you know, and, you know, try to not get yourself involved in sort of a business where you might be in trouble.
Yeah.
And the last, you know, level of imitation is what we call it in Arabic mubah, or you know,
permissible.
Yes, exactly. Where, you know, like, this is something to do with the materialistic, you know, world. Okay, where things are for our life. Okay, for something not to do with religion. Okay, there will not be any clashes, you know, with your teachings and your culture and so on. Something to do with science, for example, or medicine. Something, you know, will benefit the humanity, okay, in to develop or to advance, okay. So all sorts of, you know, sciences, okay, can fall into this, you know, category.
This category.
So that, you know, even if it is coming from a different culture, you know, that they don't believe in the same belief, but still, you know, this is something that, you know, will benefit the humanity, and people will benefit from it, and it can bring prosperity and happiness and peace to people.
Ahmed, you come across young Muslims who are studying abroad, and some of them, when they come back, they're totally changed, and they pick up different cultures. Now, the thing that most people wonder is, when you look at the old generation, they went abroad as well, and they, mixed with different cultures and civilizations, but they still held on to their morals and principles and culture.
Yeah.
Now, what went wrong?
Well, I think there are two factors here. The first one, maybe at that time, people, from a different culture, view people, in a positive way. So they did not criticize these people's beliefs. So they did, these people are coming from our culture, going to, let's say, a Western culture. They did not have a problem to interact and mingle with these people because they will never criticize your own culture.
Yeah.
So that's, one aspect of it. And the other thing is, how much belief you have. And this is, something to do with the way we are brought up. Sometimes, like if your parents or the parents in general take care of, you and show you why you are doing this, for example. Why you have, what are the values of your teaching or your culture or your religion. They have a discussion. They talk to you. And there was this kind of open dialogue, I think, between parents and their children.
And their children, yeah.
People have more time to spare for their children, to teach them,
That I agree with you.
Yes,
Yeah.
But nowadays, with this busy life, people are busy with business, busy
Work.
with education, busy with, entertainment, So they just feel that, they don't have this time, spared, for their children. So children are lost. So they don't know.
And where do they learn from?
They learn from media, from people around them.
Friends.
They copy. They don't have a strong personality.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past, they used to develop this strong personality, within, the context of the Muslim context. But nowadays, you can do whatever you want. You learn from TV, you learn from media, you learn from there and so on. You go with your friends. You spend most of your time outside, the house, where you learn a lot of things and you copy a lot of things. And nobody, spares sometimes, to talk to you. What did you learn today? How did it go with you today, for example? What kind of, behaviors that, you feel that, your child is having. So
and they would notice any single change in you?
No, they don't. They just feel that it's normal. It's part of, the modern life. To have, a child with this kind of a style, with this kind of whatever behavior, it's part of, the trend. We just like to follow it. We like to, why do we have to? And especially there's another mistake that, a lot of parents, fall into, which is the idea that, they think that their children are too young to learn. Believe me, children are very smart.
Very smart, yeah.
Very smart, And we underestimate, their abilities, to learn a lot of things.
And we talk to them as kids.
Yes.
This is the problem.
Yeah, they are kids, but they are not stupid. A lot of things that, or sometimes a lot of parents believe that these kids, they are very slow in learning. And we should not introduce them, to certain concepts or principles and so on. But believe me, they pick a lot of things, from the street, from outside, from people around them, And if you notice nowadays, we have a lot of children who could handle a conversation about topics that, you never expect, to hear from a child. Name it. They can talk about sex. They can talk about, marriage. They can talk about
politics,
politics and so on. So we should not underestimate their levels of understanding. So parents, should also be aware of their understanding, and they should respect, that these children could be fed, a lot of good things, when they are still young.
I'm sure imitation was there a long time ago. It's not a new phenomenon that started just recently, but people used to hide when they imitate. There was the element of fear.
Yeah.
But now it has almost disappeared, and people have no fear whatsoever. This is one thing. The other thing is the community played a big role to stop imitation, because they used to regulate these things, and they wouldn't allow certain elements of imitation.
Yeah.
But now the community has become
more open,
and everyone
flexible,
minds their own business.
Flexible,
Yeah.
This is a very interesting thing, okay? But I just wanted to elaborate on the idea of fear. If it was fear of people, then this is a bigger problem. Because when you remove that factor of fear, then they might do something wrong. But if there is fear of God, okay, then it is completely different.
But Ahmed, maybe there's three different things.
Yeah.
First, the fear of people.
Yeah.
And then the fear of God.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're sensitive to the needs of people. It means you don't want to offend anybody by doing such a thing.
Yeah.
So you can fall in any one of these categories.
Yeah. But if fear of God, should be number one, which lead the other types of fears. When we fear people, let's say that we don't want to offend people. Why? Because this is, against, what the teaching of what God. Okay? And also the same thing, when it comes to the what, fear of what you were talking about, the other fear, which is
fear of people.
Yes,
and fear of God.
Yes. You fear people because they are showing you the right way, okay, and you need to
they are the authority.
Yes, the authority people who are trying to apply the rules of God.
Again.
Yes. So this connection.
It's the same circle.
Yes. But the main moderator, okay, if you want to call it, the main controller for all these types of fears should be what? Fear of God. Because if you don't have that fear of God in your life, then what's going to happen?
You're going to do whatever you like.
Yes. Yeah. When you remove that fear of people, okay, when you don't have government, then what's going to happen? You're going to do whatever you do. Then if you don't have that fear of, offending, other people, if people don't care, if you offend them or not, then you will just go on and on, okay, and offend, more people and so on. So all these types of fears should be connected to the fear of God.
And Ahmed, in the olden days, the community used to live as one family. So, for example, if our neighbor sees me as a young boy doing something wrong, he would come and beat me up, or at least he would come to my house and tell my dad that I saw Hatem doing something wrong. But nowadays, the family has become smaller.
Yeah.
And you would see something wrong on the streets and you just ignore it, or you don't want to get into trouble because people don't respond to you the right way. If you go and tell your neighbor that I saw your son doing something wrong, he might react in a different way. He might be angry. He might tell you that you have to mind your own business.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the change of our culture, the change of our way of life also plays a big role.
Yeah, but still, the idea, this is a very good example, okay, or a very good point that you have just mentioned. But, we have to think about it, from a different perspective. Now, in our teaching, okay, we are advised to change something wrong. And we have, the different ways of doing it, either by hand or by talking, or even, when you just, show from inside that you're not happy. Yeah.
From your heart.
Yes.
You dislike.
Yes, you dislike. So, but, they are like in order. Okay? And if you cannot do this one, you move to the next one, which is lower than the other one. Okay? But, if we just think about, what people think, because, this is something to do with following the teaching. I don't care whether this person will say that, do this, don't do this, okay? If it is, matching the teaching of my religion, then I will just continue doing it, because one day it might click and make that person change. Because, sometimes it might take a long time.
So what you're trying to say, Ahmed, is to take the initiative.
Exactly. We need to do that. Because if we say, this is none of my business, and, another person will say the same thing, then nothing will change. We have to come together. Okay, we need to cooperate together. We need to, everybody has to do the role that he is supposed to do. Like when we talk about family, the family is supposed to do their duties, okay, towards, their family, their children, their like society and so on. When we go to school,
and maybe even start at home,
yes,
raise your kids in the best way.
Sure. Before they go to school, because our children spend more time now in their schools, okay, more than they spend the time in their what?
With us,
yes,
at home.
So that's another issue. So first of all, if they have that strong foundation from the beginning, okay, we'll make sure that these people are going to what? To learn, and they will be equipped with the right tools to face any kind of a challenge. So we have to start from the house. And then, we have also to make this connection between the house and the school. Now, it's a very common thing now, that parents do not even bother to ask about, what's happening in their school, in their kids' school. Like
they just assume that everything's all right.
Yes, fine, like school will take care of them. The school will be, the babysitter, will be, the person who's teaching them everything and so on. Okay, so they just assume a lot of things, okay, happening in the school. And they don't want to take any initiative, as you mentioned, and they don't want to do any effort, okay? So these kids will copy, especially if they don't have a strong personality.
Yeah.
And they will just, like imitate and copy from here and there, and then they form this personality, which is a shaking, okay, or a shaky personality. And at the end of the day, that person will not be himself or herself, will be a combination of different people around him.
Yeah.
Okay, and he or she does not know what is right and what is wrong.
What is wrong.
And throughout his life, he will be shaky. He doesn't know what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing, and he will make a lot of wrong decisions in the future. You're not talking about now, you're talking about the long run. Okay, these people, remember, these people or these kids are going to be the coming generation. And if they are not ready for all these challenges, okay, from now, then they will never, ever be ready for to face them in the future. Okay, so that's another thing that we have.
I want to focus more on kids, Ahmed, especially when it comes to imitating and copying. We know, we spoke about this earlier, that kids, as a natural thing of growing up, that they would imitate their parents. And we, as parents, we're supposed to be role models to our kids.
Yeah.
So we would instruct our kids not to do a certain act, but at the same time, we are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. For example, okay, someone you would tell your kid it's not good to lie.
Yeah.
Never lie. And then someone will call at home, and then the kid will pick up, and then you will instruct your kid that tell them I'm not here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you think, or you would assume that your son or daughter will be brought up, will be grown up as someone who says the truth.
Yeah.
So this is also very important.
Coming back to the idea of what the role of the family. Okay, I mean, whatever we teach, directly or indirectly, okay, will be within the kid's personality in the future.
Yeah.
So this is the idea of what underestimation, because we underestimate, from the beginning that, our kids cannot get this. They cannot, comprehend that, such a lie, okay, could be analyzed by the kid. Say, why did my father lie? Okay. Maybe he doesn't want to face this man. Is he a weak person? And he started to analyze a lot of things, that we cannot even sometimes think of. Okay, but believe me, okay, these kids are really smart, and they will just take it and say, well, if my father can lie, I can lie. So
that's the thing, Ahmed.
Yes.
They would come to a conclusion that it is the right thing to do.
Exactly.
It is okay to do it.
Yeah. And like the other thing is that like nowadays, we allow our kids to watch a lot of cartoons, for example. Okay, assuming that this is the best way to get them entertained at this age, whatever,
or maybe to keep them away from us.
Okay. But we don't know, what kind of, violence,
images,
these kids can, can
observe.
have and observe and, adopt, as something, to follow maybe in the future.
Yeah.
I was, like in one of those video games, places, once, okay, and you hear all this, cursing, phrases, okay, and so once, I heard, like two kids, talking to each other, and they were using a lot of cursing phrases. And I asked them, I just, like I stopped, talking. Do you know what's the meaning of that thing? And I said, no. You see? So they picked up a lot of, phrases, which could mean a lot of bad things, okay? And imagine, they become, part of them, okay? And they use
part
them,
of speech.
Yes. And they use them. And not only that, the parents will be very happy. You say, oh, my kid is using, a very nice, phrase in English, okay? Or so, but they don't know that, that phrase, means something really bad. And maybe gradually the kid, when he or she knows that this means blah 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 blah, he started to think about other things in the future, and it might affect him in the future. Yeah.
Ahmed, we must have spoke a lot about a lot of negative aspects of imitation.
Yeah.
Maybe a few good things about imitation. For example,
as a positive thing?
As a positive thing,
Yeah. I think, like one of the things that, usually scholars, encourage people to do is, as a first step, we always, go gradual, okay? We don't like to jump into things, okay? Let's say, for example, if you tend to wear the kinds of clothes that the scholars are wearing, for example. They're saying maybe this will give you a push, to what? So this is a kind of imitation, okay? You just, copy, whatever they wear, okay? You just, try to wear whatever they wear. So they're saying that, by wearing such a thing, okay, maybe it will program you.
Affect you psychologically.
Okay, to think about, being, somebody who's a productive, and maybe in the future you become, a scholar
yourself.
And you can, serve humanity. You can be a source of knowledge in the future. So this is, one way of, imitation. So you can do that, you can imitate, people in the way they dress, the kind of phrases, they use, okay? And after that, you don't know. It just, things might, happen. Miracles, might happen. And when we program ourselves, that, okay, let me follow this guy, because we know this guy is a good guy, for example. Okay, this is here we have to be careful, okay? We have also to be aware of why we are doing such a thing. Okay, it should be explained from the beginning. By doing this, you might be affected, gradually.
Yeah.
You start step by step, okay, by, some minor things, appearance, and then the appearance will lead to what? The inner thing, okay, because, appearance is not always, the case, like we have to understand this. But gradually, you move from only the appearance to what? To the character side, okay?
Yeah.
So that's, one thing that we have to also think about, when it comes to one form of positive blind imitation or imitation.
The thing is, Ahmed, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, they tried to imitate the Prophet, peace be upon him, in every single move.
Yes.
Yeah, some of them even went to the extent they imitated the way he walked, the way he talked, the way he slept, the way they felt proud.
Yeah.
And it was a source of glory to them. So we encourage people to find role models and imitate them in a good way.
Yes.
And set a good example.
You're completely right. Now, we're coming back to the idea of what the image that, the media showed to the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are having fear of our culture or our religion. So now, we have, first of all, to focus on this, make sure that, whatever we have in terms of teaching and so on, okay, are really valid and they are really valuable, okay, and we have to stick to them, okay. So we have to do that. And by doing that, we will be able to get a lot of teachings and principles and imitate a lot of things that those role models that we'd like to follow, who are good, okay, will play a very important role in our lives.
Ahmed Mubarak Al-Matani, thank you so much for being with us. We discussed today's topic, which is blind imitation. We're going to continue today's topic tomorrow, inshallah, with more points, inshallah. So thank you so much for being with us. And I'm your host, Hatem Al-Absalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.